ज्योतिर्मयेतिमिदन्दस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकाया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशधारिणे। I am very grateful for this opportunity to be with you this evening. Special gratitude to His Grace Eddie Stern, who has so kindly invited me, and for making this beautiful facility for all the people in New York to find hope and enlightenment through yoga, and to Kostubaji, who has so nicely helped here, and especially to all of you for taking your precious time to be with us tonight. I was asked to speak on the subject of the temple of the heart and how the essence of spirituality is inner transformation. In the yoga tradition, there is an analogy of the Indian musk deer. Do you know what musk is? It is an ambrosial fragrance. The musk deer spends his whole life searching the forest to enjoy the origin of where that fragrance is coming from. Going here and there from bush to bush, tree to tree, not knowing that the source of the fragrance is an organ within his own body. In the Brahma Sutra, it is said, Anandamayo Vyashat, that the constitutional nature for every living being is to seek pleasure. And the essence of all pleasure is love. And that love very nice special effects. It is within the heart of each and every living being. In the Bhagavad Purana, there is a story of an avatar named Vamana. He took the form of a little dwarf, and he went to a king, Bali, who was actually the king of the universe. And he went as a beggar with a little begging bowl. And the king was pious. He said, "My little beggar dwarf, whatever you want, I'll give you, just ask." The little boy said, "Just give me 3 steps of land." Bali said, 3 steps of land? You're coming to a big person, you should ask for a big thing. I can give you an entire country. I can give you tremendous wealth and palaces and power. And your steps are so tiny? Why only 3 steps? And the little dwarf looked at him and smiled and spoke words that cut right through the king's heart. He said, "You are the controller and the proprietor of a vast kingdom, but you're still not satisfied. I have nothing, but I'm satisfied because I have found peace. I have found meaning. I have found love within my own heart. Whether I have nothing or whether I have everything, I'm happy. You have everything and you are not happy." In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says that real happiness, real joy must be discovered within ourselves. If we don't find it within ourselves, we cannot find it anywhere in the world, no matter what we do or whatever we acquire. Like the musk deer. Spiritual life is the science of cleansing the heart and tasting the joy of living in harmony with God and with nature. Real yoga is the process of restoring the heart to its natural state. There's a beautiful story that took place 5,000 years ago in the state of Orissa in India, in the town of Puri. Therein, even to this day, you can visit. There is a temple called Gundicha. The great avatar of Krishna, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he invited all of his devotees to come to that temple early in the morning. And as they walked in, he gave each and every one of them a broom. There was about 400. And he told them all, "I request you to meticulously clean this temple of every single grain of sand, dust, or straw, and remove it." They spent the whole day sweeping and sweeping and sweeping and sweeping until it was shining clean. Then with thousands and thousands of buckets of water, they washed it and polished it. This story is an analogy of how yoga is meant to clean the temple of the heart. Just like a mirror. When you look in a mirror, you're meant to see yourself. But when the mirror is covered with dust and other sorts of pollution, layers and layers and layers, all we see is that dust. We can't see who we are. In a similar way, in the temple of the heart, the dust of arrogance, selfish passion, envy, greed, illusion, anger, it covers our true identity. We're not able to see who we really are. We're not able to taste the real joy that we're always seeking. But by sweeping the temple of the heart, by cleansing it, by purifying it, we can restore it to its natural condition. The next day, after the cleansing of the Gundicha temple, there was a big procession. And the king of Orissa, Prataparudra, he began the joyous ceremony by coming out with a broom and sweeping the street to clear the path for the Lord and all the Lord's associates to enter the temple. Although he was a great king. In his heart of hearts, his feeling was, I am simply the servant of the servant of the servant of everyone within my kingdom. With this humility, he swept the street with a broom. Yoga is path, or a street. Street and path are the same. Which is like a broom to sweep our hearts, to sweep our character, and to make it pure so that we can see the enlightened state of love within us. And I'm so happy because this particular beautiful temple that we're sitting in today is called the Broome Street Temple. Now, I will give my own translation of what Broome Street Temple means. It means the street. I'm sorry. The street or the path of yoga is a broom to clean our hearts. And this is the temple where that path of cleansing is being provided for all of us. And I thank Eddie Stern and all the people here for providing this beautiful facility. There's a story of Hanuman, the great devotee with such a pure heart. I'm seeing all these beautiful paintings of Hanumanji. And this one here depicts a particular story where Hanuman was feeling great separation from Lord Ram, the Supreme Lord. And he was crying in separation from Ram. Where is Ram? Where is Ram? And one of his friends said, Hanuman, he's within your heart. Hanuman was so eager to see the Lord, eager beyond logical, mundane considerations. If he's in my heart, I want to see him. He tore open his chest, and then he tore open his heart. And he looked, and there he saw Ram, Sita, resplendently smiling upon him. Yes, the Lord is within our heart if we have the purity of purpose. Like Hanuman, we can see him. We don't even have to rip open our hearts. Not only we see him within our own hearts, but when we see him within our own hearts, we can see him everywhere and in everyone. Because every living being is a part of God. True spirituality is not only about being a Christian or a Jew or a Muslim or a Hindu or a Jain or a Buddhist or a Sikh or a Parsi or anyone else. True spirituality is about genuine transformation of our consciousness, which begins with genuine transformation of our values and our character. Transforming greed into generosity, envy into empathy, hate into love, anger and vengeance into forgiveness, selfish passion into selfless compassion, duplicity into integrity. Real spirituality is meant to transform the perception of obstacles into opportunities, apparent curses into blessings, and to transform the dusk of death into the dawn of eternal life. Wherever we find these qualities, which culminate into the quality of compassion, where there is awakening of love within our hearts, it manifests toward all living beings in the form of compassion. In Sanskrit, there is the words para dukkha dukhi, which are the fundamental qualities of an enlightened person, whatever spiritual tradition they're in. That means that the pains and sufferings of others are my pains, and the happiness of others is my happiness. This is real humility. Without blocking the ego, we can allow without the blockage of the ego, the true flow of love and compassion can manifest from our lives. In the Bhagavad Gita, there is a chapter entitled The Divine and the Demonic Nature. In the conditioned state in this world, we all have these two natures within us. There is a beautiful analogy of the Native American Indians. The divine nature is represented by a good dog, and the demonic nature is represented by a bad dog. The good dog, generosity, compassion, forgiveness, self-control, enlightenment, joy. And the bad dog is the greed and the envy and the anger and all of the anxieties to acquire more and more and more without ever having satisfaction. Yoga is about learning how to feed the good dog and not feed the bad dog. Learning how to develop our character. The choices we make at every moment determines which of these dogs we're feeding. Now, for many of us, the bad dog's real strong. He's very well nourished. Our passionate, selfish desires, our envy, our greed, all of these things, arrogance, howling, ow! And the good dog, very hungry, is ruff, ruff, ruff. At every moment we have the opportunity of what choice to make. And we can defeat the bad dog simply by feeding the good dog. There is a beautiful story I just recently told at Columbia University. It took place in South India. The beginning of the story is Sri Rangam, very holy place, the largest temple in all of India, even today. It took place over 900 years ago. There was a great guru named Parasara, and he had a disciple. His disciple asked him, what are the qualities of a truly saintly person? Now, Parasara, although he was an exalted person with millions of disciples, he was very humble. He said, actually, I know someone who could answer that question better than me. You should go to Tirupati, Tirumala Hill, and meet Ananta. He will give you the good answer. Now, this was not easy, because in those days there were no trains or planes or buses or taxis. You had to walk. And it was about 500 kilometers away. So he walked through forests, across rivers, had to climb over mountains. At the very end, he had to climb 7 mountains to reach the top of the hill. And there he met Ananta and said, I have been sent all the way here to ask you this simple question. What are the true qualities? What is the character that one should cultivate to understand the truth? Ananta said, let me think about it. Meanwhile, to keep busy, he was going to so many classes, and he was doing yoga bhakti, he was doing seva for 1 month, 2 months, 6 months. Ananta never spoke another word to him. One day there was a big festival, and thousands of people came. And this student was serving the prasad, the spiritual food, to everyone. After everyone ate, he sat down to eat. And for the first time, Ananta came to talk to him. 6 months, he didn't say a word to him. What did he say? He said, don't eat now. He said, there's another batch of people you should feed. So he gave his plate of food to someone else and served it to hundreds more. When they were all fed, he sat down to eat. He was real hungry. Ananta came to him and said, don't eat. Serve the next batch. He served the next batch, and the next batch, and the next batch. Finally, everyone was gone. It was night. He sat down to eat. And Ananta came up to him and said, if I remember, a long time ago you asked me a question. What was your question? So what are the qualities we should cultivate to understand God and the truth and the love within us? What are the qualities of a real enlightened being? Ananta spoke very boldly. He said, a saintly person is like salt, is like a chicken, is like a crane, and is like you. That's all. And then he walked away. This poor man was really confused. I walked 500 miles? I've been here waiting for 6 months? For that? I was expecting some elaborate classes. But that's all he was going to get. So he climbed down the 7 mountains, crossed the rivers, alone, went through dangerous jungles with snakes and mosquitoes and tigers and panthers and wild elephants. And finally, after about a month, he came back to Sri Rangam, his home. And the day he arrived, there was his guru, Parasara. He met him on the roadside. And Parasara said, oh, did you ask Ananta your question? He said, yes, I did. Well, what did he say? Please tell me. He said, a saintly person is like salt. It's like a chicken. It's like a crane. And like me. And Parasara clapped his hands, leapt in the air, smiled, laughed, and said, what a beautiful answer, so comprehensive, it explains everything. The man, the student, he shook his head, he said, I don't understand a word of it. What does salt have to do with saintly people? And Parasara said, let me explain. Salt. If there's too much in a preparation, it's unpalatable. If there's too little in a preparation, it has little taste. Salt has to be balanced in order to actually bring the real flavor out of a preparation. So similarly, a saintly person has to be balanced. In Bhagavad Gita, it explains that a true yogi does not eat too much or too little, does not sleep too much or too little, is very balanced in every aspect of life. Here in New York City, balance is really important. Many of us are students with exams and books to read and professors to satisfy, or we're working in our careers. We may be doctors, we may be lawyers, we may be in business, we may be teachers, maybe engineers, farmers, we may be swamis. And we have so many obligations, and some of us have families with husbands or wives and children, and we have social responsibilities. All of these different responsibilities are important, but we also have our spiritual responsibilities, which is the ultimate purpose of life, to harmonize everything we do. This is really a definition of yoga, to harmonize everything we do for enlightenment, as an expression of love to God, as an instrument of divinity and compassion. But in order to do that, we need our spiritual practices. We need satsang, association with enlightening people who nourish us, and our own practices which cleanse the heart, restore the temple of the heart, and give us strength. Just like for those of you who may be architects or engineers, when you build a building, it's very important that you have a strong foundation. Nobody notices this foundation so much. If you go into a beautiful place, people say, oh, nice paintings, nice architecture and design, nice furniture. But how many have ever come to your home and say, fantastic foundation? It's like salt, right? Salt is not only balanced, but it also brings out so much of the flavor, but nobody cares about it. It's not that you don't care about it, you just don't notice. When you eat some food, you may say, be wonderful spices, wonderful grains, wonderful vegetables. How many of you say, the salt is fantastic? No. Salt is invisible, but it does so much. It doesn't want credit. In a similar way, the foundation of our life is very much built by our association and our spiritual practices. And when we build our life upon a strong spiritual foundation, through our career, through our actions, through our words, they have stability. They give us strength and power, a power beyond our own. Yoga is meant to help us to access a divine power within us that is far beyond our own limitations, to help us maintain integrity and spiritually grow, even in the face of temptation or fear, disease, obstacles, or death. If we have a strong foundation, whatever we build upon it will have stability and longevity. In the Bible, there is an analogy. If you build a house on shifting sands, the storms will blow it down. But if you build it on a strong stone foundation, no storm can shake it. So balance. To balance our spiritual lives with our other responsibilities, neglecting neither one, is really a secret of success for a yogi. The student said, all right, salt I understand, but what about a chicken? Of all animals, why not a tiger or a leopard? Why a chicken? Would it be flattering to you? Sometimes we say you are strong like a tiger, or you are beautiful like a peacock, or you have a memory like an elephant. Well, what if someone calls you a chicken? How is a saintly person like a chicken? Would you like to know? Yes. Parasara said to the student, a chicken will go to a heap of rubbish and look for any little nutritious seeds and eat them and disregard all the rest. Similarly, a saintly person is Sara Grahi. Sara means the essence, and Grahi means one who seeks the essence. Why is there so much disharmony, even hatred and cruelty in the name of spiritual paths or religion, which is meant to bring about compassion, love, and peace? How is it possible? Some people, for very justified reasons, feel if we want peace in this world, we have to abolish spirituality and religion. Because there's so much hatred, so much sectarianism, so much violence in the name of God. It's not the religion. It's the ego, the ahankar, the false ego that interprets something very divine into something very different. It's like if you have glasses. Now there's different names. One time I was in India and I had to read something with very small print in front of about 8,000 people. I was giving a class and I was supposed to read a verse and there wasn't good lighting, and I asked someone, please bring me some glasses, because I was right in front of everyone. So the person brought me a glass of water. I said, not a glass of water, glasses. So he thought that meant plural, so he brought me another glass of water. Now I had glasses of water. And then I realized the word in India is spectacles. But if you have green-colored glasses or spectacles, everything looks green. If you have yellow-colored, everything looks yellow. If you have clear-colored, everything looks clear. If you have the wrong prescription, everything looks blurry. So our mind is like spectacles, and we, the Atma, is seeing through the mind. And even we read scripture, we hear saintly people speak, or we speak ourselves. And truth is distorted into something very corrupt, very egoistic. Otherwise, there's not such thing as sectarianism in true spirituality. There's a beautiful verse in Bhagavad Gita. Vidyavanaya sampane brahmane kabihastini suni chaiva swapake cha pandita samadarshana. What is the quality of a person who is learned? A person who sees every living being with equal vision. A person who sees the essence, the Atma, the life force within him or herself, will see a part of God, will see the divinity within everyone, and will be an instrument of the compassion within our hearts in every aspect of our life. The Bhagavad Gita explains that is a true yogi, a realized, enlightened yogi. There are many rituals. There are many languages of different spiritual paths throughout the world. And if we become attached to those things without understanding the essence within it, its purpose, then our spiritual training has an opposite effect of what it's supposed to do. Awaken love for everyone. Respect for every living being. Whether they be a priest, a man, a woman, an Indian or American or a Pakistani or a Palestinian or an Israeli, an African or a Native American Indian, or whether one's rich or poor, or from any religion, or from no religion, one sees the divinity in every living being. Like a chicken that looks for the nutritious seed and doesn't care about all the other stuff. And also, in every situation, looks for the opportunity to grow. Person said, well, what about a crane? A crane is a bird. It's really a yogi. It just stands on one leg. Have you ever seen? A crane stands on one leg in a pond of water and focuses his glance or her glance on the fish passing by. And all little fish are passing, and the crane is looking. Just lets the little fish pass. But when the big fish comes, he eats it. Now, we're not advocating eating fish, but the crane eats fish. That's his dharma. The analogy herein is so many in our own spiritual path, in our own experiences in life, we have a tendency to get so caught up in superficial things. In the form of the ritual, in the type of the language, in the identity of our social circle. We have a tendency to see faults in others and gossip about that, to waste our time with so many things that really don't mean much. But like the crane, we should just let all these superficial little fish pass, and we should focus on not the superficial, but the super fish. Oh. And we should taste that and enjoy that. The things that are really meaningful in life. The essence, the saragrahi. He said, well, what about me? How is a saintly person like me? And Parasara said, oh, you had such determination and such eagerness for your spiritual life that to understand the truth, you walked 500 miles there and 500 miles back. That takes determination is necessary. Eagerness for truth is essential. And also patience. You waited 6 months until you got the answer. And in the process, you served everyone. That means putting others before yourself. These are qualities of a saintly person, just like you. Then Parasara said, actually, Ananta could have told you all these things in detail. But his kindness to me, he wanted me to taste the sweetness of his words and then amplify them for your enlightenment. Good character is the requisite for deep spiritual realization. Many years ago, in fact 1970, I lived at Swami Shivananda's ashram in Rishikesh on the bank of the Ganges. And there I studied for some time under Swami Chidananda Saraswati, his successor, at his ashram. And I remember reading something that really affected me. Swami Shivananda wrote, he was talking about yoga practice and dharana and dhyan, meditation, concentration and meditation. He said prerequisite to being able to actually develop real spiritual intuition and insight through meditation, yama and niyama, or developing good character, is very important. Because without good character, there are so many examples in the Veda scriptures of people who performed yoga and developed tremendous powers, but because of a lack of good character, it didn't help them to realize God or become enlightened. They used them for the wrong purpose. In the Ramayana, we're seeing these beautiful photos of Hanumanji. Hanuman was a great yogi, and part of his wondrous leela or pastimes was fighting Ravana, who was also a yogi, who could perform all sorts of incredible supernatural powers through his yogic practice. But he didn't overcome lust, or greed, or envy, or arrogance. So he used his powers to hurt people, to fulfill his own selfish, cruel desires. So Swami Shivananda here is saying that good character is very important to cultivate. Then our spiritual practices actually connect us to the divinity within. In the path of bhakti, the yoga of devotion, the most powerful of all our practices is japa and kirtan. Concentrating, meditating on the mantra of the holy names, the divine names of God. Namachintamani Krishna's Chaitanya Ras Vigraha, that the holy name of the Supreme Truth is non-different than the Supreme Truth itself. But Lord Chaitanya taught us, if we really want to access that divine power, access the love and the compassion that is within our own hearts, there's a simple formula in which we should chant the divine names. Trinarapi sunichena taror ibase hishnuna amanina manadena kirtaniya sadahari. One should be humble like a blade of grass, tolerant like a tree, eager to offer all respect to others and not expect respect for oneself. if we cultivate these qualities in our life, then when we chant God's name, it quickly awakens our love. Humility, gratitude, forgiveness, self-control, kindness. These are qualities that soften our heart, like fertilizer. And then when the bhakta waters the heart with the mantra, the seed of love very rapidly grows. Good character is the basic foundation of all religions, all spiritual practices, and yoga itself. Another example. In our spiritual practices, we are ingesting in our hearts a spiritual form of nourishment that is meant to make us healthy and internally grow. But just like food, even the most nutritious food, it has minimal effect unless we have the power to digest it. A grateful heart, a humble heart, enables us to digest the benefits of our spiritual practices. Now, some people think humility is a weakness, a mental disorder of a lack of self-esteem, of being down on oneself, which could cause depression. That humility means I'm nothing, I'm useless. But real humility is just the opposite. Those symptoms are not humility. Those are the symptoms of a frustrated false ego. Real humility is to be without that false ego. Real humility, it is said, doesn't mean to think less about yourself. It means to think less. What is that saying?
Not to think less of yourself.
Huh?
Not to think less of yourself, but think less about yourself.
Thank you. Doesn't mean to speak less, well, whatever you said. Of yourself, but it means to think less about yourself. That means you're busy thinking about other people. You're busy thinking about the divinity or God and being an instrument of that compassion. Real humility connects us to an unlimited power, the power of divine grace that is within our hearts. Real humility enables us to be an instrument of that power, which can overcome all obstacles. The ecology of the world is very much polluted. There's pollution in the water, pollution in the air, pollution in the earth. But what is the origin? Pollution in people's hearts. Greed and ego. Yes, it is very important that we try to clean the ecology of the environment that we live in by the choices we make. Choices based on the foundation of integrity and wisdom. But in order for that to be done and for there to be continuity, we have to focus on claiming the ecology within our heart. That is the real problem. a lack of compassion, a lack of love, which brings so much internal meaning and so much internal satisfaction that we don't have to cheat people or corrupt the world for our satisfaction. That is the essence of yoga. Yama, niyama, asana, pranayam, pratyahara, dharana, dhyan. It's all meant to bring us to the samadhi of living in harmony with God, living in harmony with nature, living in harmony with ourself and with all other living beings, and celebrating the joy of that life. And ritual, we're in a temple today and many rituals are performed. Some people really don't like rituals. They think it's a very superficial thing. And usually it is. Because any ritual, its substance, its meaning is based on the intent of the people who are performing it. Puja, it's like an envelope. You can have a nice envelope, but the purpose of an envelope is meant to send a message. So when we perform our puja or do our ritual, it's an envelope to send our intent to the divine. If our intent is to actually cleanse our heart, to actually make offerings of love, to actually purify ourselves and serve others, then that ritual is a beautiful medium. It's a beautiful meditation. It's a beautiful form of yoga. But if we don't focus on the essence of the purpose of it, then the same rituals, we just do it for the sake of doing it, out of superstition. And it could divide us and create sectarianism and create all sorts of other maladies within the world. Bhagavad Gita stresses again and again, as do all the great saints of all the religions and all the great yogis, to be saragrahi, to seek the essence. That means to strive and focus on inner transformation through our spiritual practices. And the power of that spiritual transformation within ourselves, when it is expressed within our lives, could help to bring real change, actual transformation to the whole world. When we restore the temple within our own heart, we will see the whole universe as a beautiful temple. And yes, there are many things in this world that we don't have so much control over. I'd like to share with you one very brief story before I end this evening. Would you like to hear the whole story or just a little part of the story? Okay, I'll share with you a part of the whole story. I'm just amazed by your patience. You're really yogis here. Amekala, I was in South India in a place called Melakote. Very, very holy place. I could speak for hours and hours about that place. Have any of you ever been to Melakote? It's very close to Mysore, just a few miles away. It's a beautiful mountain with an ancient temple on the top, with a tremendous history. So while I was there, I got a phone call. And my dear friend, Shrutikirti, who was my guru, Srila Prabhupada's personal assistant for many years, told me that his wife, Amekala, had this cancer, and they didn't give her much time to live. She expressed a very sincere desire that I meet with her before she dies. I spoke to her on the phone. I sent her a letter, which is rare for me because I'm not good at writing letters. One of my many shortcomings. So a few days ago, I had a ticket to London where she was living on an airplane. Actually, when I first went to India from London, I hitchhiked. It took 6 months. It was rigorous, it was dangerous, it was scenic, and it was very, very transforming. Going through Europe, and then Turkey, Iran, Afghanistan, and Pakistan. Now, you get on a plane and in 8 hours you reach the same. Not very scenic, usually not very transformative. Except one time the plane announced an emergency landing. There were sirens going off that we're having emergency landing, and they were warning us what we should do and what we shouldn't do. And when we came by the runway, we saw about 50 fire trucks and ambulances with their lights on, waiting for us. So that was a little transforming. I began to really reconsider what's important in my life. Suddenly the things I felt were so important were not so important. All that was really important is my heart pure? Am I ready for this moment? I actually took shelter. But anyways, I really wanted to go to see my god sister before she died. She was calling for me. But my flight was canceled because of the volcano in Iceland and the ashes that it produced. Very interesting how nature works. A little tiny country in the middle of the ocean named Iceland could create so much problem for the whole world by nature's power. So all the flights were canceled. So I was sitting in my room, and in Bombay sometimes you get malaria. So I sleep on the floor under a mosquito net. And I was just about to crawl under my mosquito net on the floor to go to sleep, because I had nothing to do that night because I was supposed to have left. And one of my friends, old friend, he came to my room. He said, "What are you doing tonight?" I said, "I'm going to sleep." I really wanted to go to sleep, because for weeks before that, so many lectures and so many people and so many things. Yoga Nidra justifies this. Sometimes yogis need some Nidra. So, need sleep. So he said, "I thought you were going to London." I said, "Volcano? No flights." He said, "Well, why don't you come with me?" I said, "Where are you going?" He said, "To Zambia." Zambia is in Africa, southern part of Africa. And he said, "I have a private jet. I'll fly you to Zambia, and then from Zambia, I'll take you to London." I said, "When are you leaving?" He said, "Immediately." I said, "Well, do you really want me to come?" He said, "Yes." I thought about it for about 1 second, and I said, "All right." So I packed my bags in a couple seconds, and I was in a car, and within a few minutes I was on a jet. It was just the two of us on this jet, going to Zambia. And the next morning we arrived in Zambia. Actually, from a perspective of altitude, it was a very high level of hitchhiking for me. I didn't pay anything for this flight. It was like hitchhiking. When I used to hitchhike with Gary, my friend, we would just, whoever picked us up, we would just go wherever they went. So I was in Zambia, and we met the president of the country the next day, and then that night we flew to London. I arrived in London with a stop in Tunisia. And as soon as I arrive, I get a call that Amakala, my god sister, actually when I was in Zambia, I got a call that the doctors gave her 24 hours to live. So it was really a blessing that I got that flight. I arrived late at night. I would spend some hours with her in the morning, and then spend some hours with her in the evening. And then soon after, she passed away. And her husband told me a story. He told me that she was in a state, totally emaciated. Her complexion was bleached white. The cancer was so aggressive that it ate through her spinal cord, and she was paralyzed, her waist down. She was in unbearable pain. And she was on the verge of death. Now, for a person in that state, sometimes you really feel worthless, because people like to look nice, and she didn't look nice at all. People like to be able to move and do things themselves. Every single thing, from passing stool and urine to eating, somebody had to assist her with everything. She couldn't move without assistance. Very humiliating. She was going to die. But she told her husband, with a smile on her face, she said, "I have unlimited value." Do you know why? Because God loves me. And God loves everyone. Therefore, everyone has unlimited value. If we think about what we can do and what we are, we're very vulnerable, we're very subject to be very depressed due to different situations. But if we just focus on this truth, that God loves us, that truth is so empowering. It makes all of us so important. And nothing could disturb that importance. She said, "I'm feeling that love like I've never felt it before. I wouldn't trade my position for anyone else in the world. And I've never loved people so much because I could see that within everyone now." Real wealth is within. Different spiritual paths awaken it in different ways. But everything in life, if we see through the lens of yoga, every situation in life can help us to grow. Every situation of life can transform us. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.